Well, so this is the first time that I've actually done a tabletop writing segment in a very long time. And it's really just kind of due
What
to
is
the
that
fact
like?
that, yeah, is that I've been just really busy with my job and everything like that. I'm just very slowly starting to figure out, what gaps of time I have in order to do all of my extracurriculars again.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of brainy this week. Is that I did a let's play. I did the release of the latest episode, and also I played the first installment of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Um,
Oh yeah, I saw the trailer for that. Very cool.
mhm. And so I've done a little bit more brainy content than I probably would have usually done in a week. But that's a good sign. I still have to reconcile, when I'm going to do this and then when I'm going to do the other channel for the comic book store, but
Yep.
mm. Well, I'm glad that we're finally going to get to this because I know that you've been working really
Yep,
hard at
we're getting
this.
back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll all eventually, like, all of us will get back into it, like, eventually.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go ahead and play the video.
Alright.
Meow. This fearless caddis is the raddest, has skills of the baddest, magic, slinging more status, practically unmatched, runs all of the gamut, in fact, he's a reference games and chatting, bent wizardly hatting, questing, stacking, napping, this cat diversified, witty banter, seeking kitty answers, roll 20 to scamper, tune in, and enjoy the ride, Brady, the RPG cat, Brady, the RPG cat.
What's green and sounds like a parrot? No, that's a joke. Okay, what's green and sounds like a parrot? Oh, you don't actually. Sorry, I had your mic down throughout all of that.
Oh.
I'm such a ditz. Well, I'm just getting back to this, so I'm making
Hey.
all sorts of little errors like
Well, we're both ditches, huh?
that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's green and sounds like a parrot?
Uh... Kick?
Carrot.
What?
That's what's green and sounds like a parrot. A carrot.
Oh.
Anyways. Hello everybody. Hello cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and very humans, and every race, class, and subclass. Welcome to another episode of Bringing the RPG Cat. Today we're doing another installment of Writing the RPG, which is the segment on this show where we come up with new original ideas. We world build and we create universes and just environments in which it would be interesting to roleplay. And so,
Yep, sometime you might even see us be playing it one day. You never know.
yeah, some future installment of One Shots of the Meowing Portal, or also just any other spin-off or any additional show that we might be able to come up with.
Yep.
All right. So, this is something that is mostly, written here by my associate, at Shy Bunny Servant on Twitter, but here as QB. is one of the
Yep,
regular
that.
role players here at on our show, One Shots from the Meowing Portal. And so this is called, and usually I'm the one who messes up the made-up names here, but this is the Halvacavalon Kingdom.
Hey, you got it, first try.
Yeah, okay, that's good. I mean, it just
Yep.
has Avalon in there. That's very neat and crisp.
Yeah, pretty cool. I made that.
Yeah. All right. So, since this is something that QB has been writing, is that I don't believe that I have the right to do the introduction here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring QB into this in order to tell us what the basic overview of this concept is.
Well, thank you, Brainy. And so, like you said, I'll be explaining like the overall concept of like this little thing that I wrote is a part of. So pretty much what this would be like part of a set for is in a world where there's 4 kingdoms fighting. Thing. You probably heard that before somewhere somehow, but still, it's also here. And yeah, the player characters would have to like find a way to stop the war, or like between all the kingdoms.
All right. So, I guess we can get into a little bit of the dialogue here now. Okay. So, this is what is written as part of the introduction is that one of the great
Yeah,
empire.
it's probably not that good, like yeah, still learning
Well,
about this sort
yeah.
of stuff.
Well, we're still, just in the beginning of writing all of this, so we can, expect everything just to be really good right out of the box.
All right, let's get it started, shall we?
Do you know something that's good out of the box?
Huh?
You know something that's good out of the box, like anything?
I think
things
like figurines.
Or chocolate chip cookies.
Yes.
Yeah, those things are good right out of the box, but creative writing is not good right out of the box. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
This is one of those things you gotta take time with.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so this is part of the introduction right here. One of the great empires, the kingdom of Halvacavalon, believes itself to be greater than the rest of the kingdoms that inhabit the continent. I can't really blame them with all the magical feats they've accomplished. This book will contain important information about Halvacavalon that I have gathered throughout my travels, and hopefully these will help you with your own adventures, whoever's reading this. History, the origins of Halvacavalon aren't too hard to find. They're rather prideful of it, after all. The first to eventually create the kingdom seemed to be cat people who wanted to find a land that would be proof of strength and wit to simply live there. Through their journey, great warriors of this traveling caravan were able to slay countless monsters that stood in their way. That's a slay.
Yep,
Slay that way.
Slay, queen.
Slay that way. Yeah. Their destination happened to be home to a dragon who was angered at the arrogance of the founders, which rivaled its own, that would constantly attempt to wipe them out, only to learn that they had the battle prowess to back up their ego, resulting in its defeat, and establishing the Halvacavalon kingdom on the dead beast conquered nesting grounds. According to the legends, the blood of the dragon permanently dyed the land, rewarding the heroes by blessing their ancestors with the magnificence of great dragons of old. That's really good, particularly.
Aw, thanks.
Yeah,
To hear making me blush.
Well, I mean, just out of, what you call it. That is, a little bit of what we like to call theming. Is that that the ground is red is because it was stained by the blood of a dragon in an ancient myth.
Yep, exactly.
As Devin is here, and right now he's pushing all the redeem buttons. So I'm getting
Devin,
head pats and hats off.
Hey.
I don't know if the microphone quite picks that up right.
Yeah, it picked you up.
Yeah, and I also got the new redeem where my hat gets removed. And that can be for an indeterminate amount of time. Yeah, bald. The baldest furry that you've ever seen on the internet.
My eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Let's see. It was said that the founders of the kingdom took part in a grand feast from the dragon's meat, And due to the dragon's powerful mana still residing in the meals which were made with the dragon, the lingering legacy of the death of the dragon continues on as the remains of the dragon's mana was passed on to the children of the founders in the form of various sorts of horns. So this is kind of a repetitious theme that goes on in the kind of stories that we write. O.S. Devon says, I have a fluffy head. I do have a fluffy head. And contrary to popular belief, I do have an additional ear.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there's an ear under my head.
What? You got 3 ears? You're a mutant?
I have one ear and then I have the other ear. But nobody ever sees the other ear.
That makes me nervous.
Mm-hmm. So the passing of rulership is fairly straightforward. The title of king is passed down by generations of royal family sons, with a powerful beginning with steady leadership. Halvacavalon is known to be a bustling metropolis filled with means of improving the art of magic and mana. Such magical breakthroughs brought by Halvacavalon include magitech, novel ways of taming beasts, and the most recent and controversial, homunculi. Environment: the kingdom lies in the heart of highly active volcanic activity, which brims with many sorts of flying and fire-dwelling monsters. You'd think that this sort of place would be impossible to live in, however, the Halvacavalon seem to defy it all. We might, right there, we just kind of might want to come up with a slightly different name for the denizens of Halvacavalon.
So, we're working on that. But still, the environment, I really wanted to, establish is, this is kind of a place that you would get, this is, the absolute picture you'd get when you would expect, Bowser's world in, World 8 in Mario games. And it's if you, step into this place, you'd expect a Bowser to be somewhere around here.
Yeah. I've often gotten to Super Mario when it comes to some of my own writing. That's basically where Lord Terrapin comes from. Or it's really that Lord Terrapin was there first and then was in a D&D campaign and then just it became part of my own writing.
Yep, Terrapin and was able to take Mario with a Bowser's design, and here I'm taking Mario's inspiration from a Bowser's home design.
Mm-hmm. So every corner is bound to have some sort of gears and metal structures, keeping everything operational, giving the alternate title as the Mechanical Kingdom. This is thanks to the many minds which constantly provide valuable boons for them to use however they wish. Despite this, the social hierarchy places magic users far above those who can't and stick to manual labor. In the Halvacavalon Kingdom, magic is what powers everything from the light networks to the very mechanical foundations, which move to properly accommodate transport for its citizens. Key-based means are often established as in the kingdom's automatons. And so, that is to say is that, automatons are also just a regular feature of the universes that we create. We're making the additional, adding in the additional theming that they are actually powered by molten lava.
Yep, fueled by a mock circulatory system.
Yes, a mock circulatory system containing lava laced with mana, not only giving their automatons life, but providing a sufficient counterattack if any sufficient damage is inflicted. Effectively saying that they...
Yep, so if you actually manage to cut these, you'll have to try to not get hurt by the lava that'll spew out of that wound.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mythology. Halvacavalon has very few gods, but their legends are very fascinating, considering that it involves such things like the cosmos and how a realm comes into creation. According to their many books and grand tapestries, universes are created by primordial beings simply called the Ancients. They need to leave to make more, but before they do, the Ancients always create a god for a universe in order to keep it safe. What our universe received was Nove, the goddess of the stars, a massive clockwork cat goddess made of gold and shines more brilliantly than all of the stars combined. She is also seen as a goddess of peace, tranquility, and life, wanting the best for what she sees as her dear children. However, she recognized that part of her duty was to provide what would be seen as evil to the mortals, but deeply needed to maintain the natural order. And so she created 2 sons, one named Solstice, the god of chaos, and Equinox, god of order. The 2 of them were actually a benefit towards reality, and their mother Nove was happy with them and loved them very much. However, the brothers fought. Their conflicts are considered the origin of conflict within the realm. Their very nature made them conflict with each other, both of them causing wide destruction with their fights. Nove saw that her children were being too dangerous this way, so she had to lock them away in her own separate star. Solstice in the brightest star and Equinox in the dimmest star. Nove weeps over what she had to do, not just her sons, but all mortals. As a shining hope to help her sons, she kept their physical forms confined, but she allowed their spirits to go and be reborn so they can learn from the mortals, so one day they can be together in harmony. For now, she can only wait, and it is said that night is due to Nove hiding away to avoid being reminded of imprisoning the two young gods. If her children were ever in true danger, if anyone dared to attempt to harm or use their children for their own selfish gains, she would make sure that she would pay for their dire crimes and to keep her sons safe again. Pretty sure I got all that right.
Yep, you did get it right. Pretty interesting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a really good myth. And so, this is kind of important because, as we understand myths, they were legends passed on through word of mouth. And effectively what a myth will tell you, particularly a myth of creation, is basically what values a particular type of culture has. And I really think that you kind of nailed that kind of interplay with this myth.
Wow, really? Would you like to explain for the viewers?
Yeah. I mean, so first of all is that, the fact is that you are talking about the necessity in order for a nation to have a god. So it's the understanding that there are just other places and other parts of the world that particularly have gods. The role of Nove was in order to provide both good and evil for the community, which suggests that, they have a concept of both of these things, but they did not necessarily want their goddess to be a direct participant in those things. And,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the creation of solstice and equinox is, is symbolic of day and night. And the process of day and night was created when these two individuals decided to do
Fun
battle
fact,
with each
these
other.
two are also sort of like reflections of how we have certain myths about things like demons and angels, and
Mhm.
also a solstice is a time where a day, a 2 days in the year are either the shortest and the longest, and equinox is when and 2 days are actually the same exact length. So yeah, it took some celestial pull effects from things
Yeah.
things like that add
hmm
into things as well.
hmm
Keep it up the star theme.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything kind of works together in order to do that, and then afterwards, supply the necessity for individual characters to have specific types of agency. Devin in the chat
So we
says,
can't have them mindless after all.
mm, yeah.
Chaos and order allows life to thrive, as evil as it might be.
hmm And so Devin in the chat is saying nifty. I agree with that.
Very nifty indeed. Thank you, Devin.
hmm And so just we're gonna move on, but just the very last sentence I have basically has to do with the fact that this is what creates the individuals inside of the realm, of the dimension, whatever you want to call it at this point. This is what demands that individuals have their own forms of innovation.
Oh yeah.
Because they know that the gods are conflicted, and then conflicted in a way where they cannot see past themselves in order to actually help the common individual.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so from there we'll go into Magitech. With the amazing benefits of magic, it was only a matter of time for the wizards of Halvacavalon to combine magic and metal to gain the best of the two. Magitech is a commonly specialized armor which also contains the ability to cast spells similar to a casting focus. This invention has allowed many who would either be ordinary frontliners or vulnerable magic casters. Those who don Magitech can be either or both without the downsides of either one. Taming armor. Plenty of different variants of taming armor have been greatly reduced to the threat of many sorts of wild beasts. However, the kingdom's favorites to use are flying monsters such as wyverns or more commonly close to Halvacavalon star sparrows. Mounts used can greatly vary thanks to taming armor, as it takes even one band in order to command even the most hostile creatures. So that's taming armor. That's just one of the examples of magic tech. You know, this is where we create category and subcategory. Monsters, star sparrows. You had mentioned them in the previous paragraph, and it's really good that the follow-up paragraph, comes immediately after that. One of the most
we're introduced to star sparrows, and afterwards you're being explained on what star sparrows are.
One of the most bizarre creatures ever discovered, star sparrows are a very large sort of arcane bird species, which is known to be incredibly violent. Their average height is about 7. That's supposed to be 7 feet, right?
Yeah, 7 feet.
Yeah. Okay, so a little bit of a difference in the symbol for that. So it would actually be 7 apostrophe, not 7 quotation. And although there are rumors about a different sort that can dwarf a regular star sparrow, they have so far not been confirmed. Anatomy is mostly similar to birds of prey. However, the head lacks a beak, instead sports a large mouthful of sharp teeth, making star sparrows one of the very few avian creatures that masticate their prey rather than swallowing it whole. What star sparrows see as prey are actually significant sources of mana, which means they mostly target creatures that are able to use mana or magic, which make them a very common thing to see in Halvacavalon, as they're drawn to the high concentration of magic users. Even with taming armor, Halvacavalons prefer having star sparrows as hunting beasts rather than mounts, refusing to even consider it until they have a way to prevent any of their magic to be stolen. Beginning of the races section, we have homunculi. Beings created by the combination of mana spells and mana-needing determination, the homunculi are a species artificially created using magic, but never really forming the way their creators want them to be. Homunculi have a very volatile biology, which means that no two homunculi would look the same, with seemingly organized chaotic features and physiology when they come to life. Many sorts of factors can influence appearance, such as environment, emotions, and even morality, mainly causing natural colors to change in certain ways depending on the cause. The very few things that homunculi do have in common also include being created without gender and the ability to mentally develop very quickly. A newly created homunculus can gain the mental capacity of a teenage humanoid in the span of one night. Important characters: King Boyzone, the current king of
Bazion. Bazion. His name is King Bazion.
Bazion, okay. Bazion, okay, I can see it now. The current king of Halvacavalon, who has earned his role through combat and merciless methods. King Bazion has many mysterious and unnerving secrets that he keeps behind closed doors, masking such questions with his iron grip rule, even what might have happened to his queen who brought his son into the world. Bazion is notorious for having quite an ego, putting a lot of focus into improving the strength of magic, and more than willing to disregard ethics to gain power for himself. The only thing he seems to actually care for is his son, Prince Magashar, who he's raised to be the perfect heir. But of course his perfect plans were getting messed with ever since the Jester came along. Prince Magashar, the young son to King Bazion, Magashar, aka Magsy, is a prodigy in the magical arts and sword wielding, showing great potential for when he will take the throne one day. The boy, Magashar, looks forward to an opportunity to lead everyone to a brighter future once he's king, and he's always seen playing pretend with himself as king. But over time, he has found that it's fairly lonely with just himself and his imaginary friend. So after a long time of begging, King Bazion finally caved and brought Magashar to an orphanage to select whatever sibling he wanted. And guiding by fate, Magashar saw all the other children and joyfully chose someone who would change everything. Maxie, the first homunculus to be born and live. Maxie was someone to take matters into his own hands, or claws, whether others liked it or not. When he escaped his dead creator, the wizard Moonstone, which he claims they didn't do any of it, but rather was their best friend, best pal, he stuck into a building to get some food, maybe shelter as well while they were at it. However, while he was just about to take an apple from a high shelf, he was startled by the voice of Prince Magashar. "I want this one." And so Maxie ended up going with Magashar and Bazion. Am I still getting that right?
Yeah, you're getting it right.
Okay. Having to work as a royal jester while staying at Maxie's side at all times. But surprisingly, Maxie didn't mind at all. They and Maxie quickly developed a strong brotherly bond with Maxie's playful and mysterious nature. Maxie even took up the he label solely for Maxie to call them brother with. The two got into quite a bit of trouble due to Maxie loving to cause some mischief, yet they still led Maxie along in all sorts of fun adventures and discovering themselves, much to the annoyance of Bozion. Even with the intimidating king, Maxie isn't afraid to stand up and talk back to him, thanks to the jester privilege he maintained. They are very protective of Maxie, making sure that the two of them would make sure to keep smiling and were able to be with both of their seemingly imaginary friends. And so, that is everything that has been written in the document so far. We're going to
Yep,
throw...
that's everything I made so far.
Mm-hmm. So immediately, what we're going to need to do is that, we've been discussing a lot of this in DMs, so we also just need to work on taking everything that we had put in the DMs and putting it into this document, even if it's outside of what has currently been written into the document, so that we would be able to, just have all of that in a single document. And the other thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to just be creating another academic style outline for all of this so that we can be able to organize specifically where everything needs to go. Following the introduction, the introduction of the NPCs is going to be necessary for us to start writing in multi-chapter format, chapter 1, through X amount of chapters so that we can develop basically how the player characters are going to run through the entirety of the adventure.
Yeah.
So we gotta find the format for that. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna take this and I'm going to turn this into a single column because it's just gonna help with the organization of that. All right.
Yeah, that helps better.
Mm-hmm. So, like I say, I'm going to go back into, what we've been discussing in DMs, and I'm just going to start taking, just any information that isn't currently in the document so that we can start adding it into the document in different areas. All right, so let me see. So I think everything before you had written the original document is probably what's in the documents. What is in the DM is essentially what we've already discussed was in the DM. So what we need to do is we need to start grabbing from the sections that happened afterwards.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put a window mark here.
All right.
And just beneath that, let's see what has come up since we've been discussing this. I think it would be a cool. Okay, here's the first one right here. I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna paste it. Then we can discuss it.
All right.
Okay. I think it would be a cool idea to have things like Maxie's almost supernatural bite and claw slashing strength explained by having his teeth and talons be mostly made out of the second strongest natural mineral known as boron nitride.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No. See, this would make sense because, with all the natural minerals, around the place, it makes sense that some would also be used to make Maxie himself.
Mm-hmm. It would make sense. Halvacavalon would regularly use their natural resources for magic, especially Maxie. And so that's just another sentence I'm going to paste. We already went over why.
Yep.
So just a follow-up to the same thought.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's the next one. I have in mind for Maxie's gimmick / curse is that their soul state, or whatever it would be called, is actually Solstice taking over their consciousness and body. essentially piloting a mutilated corpse until Maxie gets his body back. When not possessing Maxie, he acts as their imaginary friend named Best Pal, who always tries to mentally manipulate him, and overall is a bad influence so he can get more chances to possess them and, in his words, have his fun after so long. But he still looks out for Maxie mainly because they're the main character that lets him be in the mortal world after escaping from his star cage. However, he can go through some character progression throughout the game.
Yep.
So essentially, Maxie would be this anti-hero who would prefer to not have to always be violent, but that gets pretty difficult when they're bound to a bloodthirsty elder god of chaos.
Yep, essentially.
Alright, put that in there.
Yeah, that's also gonna cause some trouble for, like, everyone else.
Alright. Also, I picture the brother dynamic with Maxie and Magashar would be most similar to that of Sonic and Tails.
Yep, another example would be something like Gumball and Darwin Morrison from The Amazing World of Gumball, but still, you get the point. And, like, similar to those two dynamics.
Star Sparrows feed from high sources of mana. It would make sense for them to target Maxie more, since they're a literal being made of mana. Part of another concept.
Yep.
Imagine charging up a spell to attack a monster only to realize all you did was ring the dinner bell. You know, it's a very, how do you put it, very poignant line. So it's probably something that we should incorporate somewhere.
Yep, for instance, like someone like an NPC or the player character is like not knowing that thing about it, and they use mana only to like start making them go into a frenzy and specifically trying to attack them.
There's also plenty of monsters that do things like eat metal and other sorts of elements like electricity, but not many monsters that will target anyone and anything that can harness any sort of mana.
Yep, it doesn't matter if you're living thing or even just like, you're not living, you're an object, you're even part of a machine. It doesn't matter to them. As long as you have mana, you're gonna get eaten.
Alright. Let's see, what else do we have here? I actually call the mana-eating bird beast star sparrows for the main reason being their feathers will change at night, giving them an almost galactic-like appearance, most likely to hunt prey easier at night. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to put that as the first sentence of the paragraph we pasted, because that's doing the description followed by ability.
Yeah, that's right.
We're setting ourselves up so that we can describe what they look like and then what they can do.
Yep.
I also plan on there being a way bigger version of a star sparrow called a solar sparrow.
Yep, we alluded to this earlier with the myth that there's possibly there's some kind of a way bigger version of a star sparrow. Oh, like back in the star sparrow section.
And it also goes with the dichotomy of the gods. This solar sparrow could be yet another result of Bosion's schemes. I'm starting to mispronounce it.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay. Boson's schemes of getting himself his own quote-unquote ultimate weapon for complete domination. So, I'm going to separate that. I'm going to start making that a different line of discussion.
Yep.
The corrupted version of Prince Magashar, who might go by the Executioner, the main antagonist would be the one who spends most of his time hunting down Maxie, would be able to use star sparrows as his own personal hunting dogs by feeding him with the ever-flowing mana bestowed onto him by the crown he's wearing, which Bozone is using to control him. Baozone.
Bazion.
Baoxian. Sort of like
Bazion.
how the symbolic relationships work, but he's more that he's the one taking advantage of the sparrows. Alright. It's like how you train your dragon works, but instead of friendship, it's giving them magical drugs. And I'm not going to add that, but that's just part of the DM. And,
Yeah,
kind of,
much.
just provides a metaphor.
Yeah, unlike the other magic users in like, Halvacavalon, on, like, Maxi, no. A corrupted Magshar here doesn't have to, like, worry too much about, like, them completely, taking all his magic. Because, like, what he has on him is, that's providing, like, endless magic from a something.
Mm-hmm. And with Maxi being made of mana, this could mean that Maxi wouldn't be too affected by things with sickness, toxins, or being drunk. Imagine you're in a tavern when you see this purple clown child chug an entire bottle of Jack Daniels without any sort of discomfort, and says that this apple juice tasted weird afterwards.
Yep.
Maxi would have a bounty on them due to the fact that they escaped from Bazion's castle. And having one of his potential ultimate weapons get out and wandering around for anyone to take is a big issue. This could lead to Team Rocket trying to steal Pikachu-style conflicts from Halvacavalon forces and corrupted Magishar. The forces going after Maxi would have to lay low when in other territories, since Bazion did not want them to know that he's unethically making beings as dangerous as Maxi to harness godlike power against them, and Halvacavalon already has plenty of controversy from things like taming armor. Alright. Let me just take another
Yeah.
So after having read all that, I've got to scroll back to the section, and then I'm going to need to paste it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So here is a... I beg pardon?
Just adjusting my posture.
Oh, alright. So, we're beginning to get to the center of all of this. And this is effectively, the situation in which the player characters are introduced to. They're put into an environment where, there are... where we have this king and this lost prince in the hands of one of the first beings that was ever created by magical means, and what it involves is the political intrigue that is created between these two individuals. And so we discussed the possibility of, this being a hero conflicting a villain storyline, or making it a little bit more ambiguous and politically round. The player characters might have the option of helping out one side over another.
It's like the main goal is like to get all the fighting to stop, but it's like we gotta deal with all these kingdoms. So while doing that,
okay, this sort of thing I came up with that could tie in the campaign is being a similar situation in Marvel with Dr. Doom still being part of the UN and has to be respected of his borders due to diplomatic immunity. Except here, the threatening but still essential leader that none of the others want to piss off is Bazion.
Yep, that would be correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, at this point is that we're really getting into, just how and where we want to make individuals consider how the gameplay should work.
Yep.
This could also have Bazian himself be more sneaky when he's scheming in order to keep his diplomatic immunity. It can also provide some tensions when the party is summoned to meetings with the leaders, since Maxi and Bazian both want to kill each other on sight, but they know that they can't for different reasons.
Yeah, so it's one of those sorts. It can provide like one of those sorts of tensions.
Mm-hmm. I can also imagine Corrupted Magashar to have his own flying boat style warship, so that he can have our party in combat segments where we have to fight the ship itself. Alright.
Yep, once again, taking inspiration from good old Mario and Bowser.
Mm-hmm. Alright. Maxi's best pal, Solstice, the one in control of Maxi's other form, can cause his own sort of problems for the party along with the process of becoming Solstice. The possession takes a while and acts like a parasitic infection that makes Maxi go off the deep end, and not only is Solstice sociopathic and murderous, he's always mentally manipulating Maxi to get more opportunities to take over.
Yep, I pretty much figured, like, I took a look at, like, symbiotes and said, like, you know what? I want to make this even more horror-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want this to be, you know, like, just no real, like, way fewer action, just, like, pure, strict horror.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I brought this up with you before, like, with the things that possess, like, you know, like, supernatural entities and things like that. I decided, like, hey, why don't I make it, like, you know, actually creepier, or, like, making it look like something that is essentially real parasites.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this would result in a mini plot after the truth about Magashar is revealed, in which Maxi could really be losing his mind, unable to return to their normal form, and run away blinded by age and guilt, starting to lose his sense of self and merging with Solstice. The party would then have to find them and help them come back to their senses.
Yep, similar like we did with Bazion, but, like, sort of more risk.
Mm-hmm. Alright. And... okay, I think that's the end of the total amount of notes that we had written. Okay, so now we have all this information. You know, what we need to do is we need to start putting ourselves in a situation where we organize it all in. And
Yep,
so this
we
is...
need to flesh them out.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's go ahead and let's start working on the outline. So, first part of the outline, you know, we'll just go ahead and give this the title. The Halvacavalon Kingdom.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Roman numeral I. Well, Roman numeral 1. That you create by typing an I.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here we have introduction. Well, even you know, if you want to be completely thorough, you talk about table of contents.
Yep, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Introduction. Press tab in order to get ourselves into the 8 column. Write down table of contents. Followed by
History.
Well, actually, we might want to do something a little bit more user-friendly, and so what we would do is we would summary, how to play, and then we go into history.
All right.
And so history itself, it actually might be our very first chapter. So let me see. Is that it could either be part of the introduction or it could just be ABC, and then this needs to be one of the previous existing. Yeah. So I'll put the Roman numeral again. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the history of the planet, you know, so the history includes one history. Here we're gonna need to have
Chuck.
So, history will mostly compose what the main part of the paragraphs are. Then we need to have to follow it up with important NPCs.
Yeah, but then I'd imagine like mythology,
Hmm.
and
Environment, yeah.
yeah, the environment, and also their or like their feats of magic.
Hmm. Gods. Um, okay. Forms of magic and monsters. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, but we're still gonna need a part where like we'll be able to you know be able to properly introduce homunculi too into this.
Hmm. Well, that would be the monster section, or it would be the,
Oh yeah,
yeah, races and monsters.
there we go.
Hmm. And so this is pretty straightforward. This is the standard stuff that is in every specific kind of book.
Yep, you got the standard.
Hmm. Okay, so from here, this is where we need to go into the realm of story chapters.
Yep.
So another Roman numeral. Um, as a matter of fact, actually, we don't want to call this a chapter. We want to call it first narrative section of the chapter.
Yep.
Hmm. Chapter 1, and if you have specific titles for these, go ahead and let me know about them.
I do not currently know.
No. What I'll say is that as soon as you actually begin to think about these things, then you can just go ahead and you can add it to the outline to the right of where it says chapter 1.
Yeah, I can always change it later.
Mm-hmm. So, we've talked about, just kind of a lot of this narrative is that we've talked about, what has happened in the past. But,
Present,
yeah.
the
Well,
future.
mm-hmm. But I'm talking about, once we start to involve the player character, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, now that the player character is in the game, how much do we actually want them to know? Like right out of the gate.
Yeah.
You don't want to, immediately tell them the entirety of the history chapter because there still might be some kind of mystery that they still need to be responsible for looking at.
Yeah, exactly. And specifically with Maxie, I don't want him to realize that this being that's kind of chasing him down, trying to catch him, is in fact his brother, but corrupted. Want him to stay in the dark about that until the time happens.
Mm-hmm. So what I would like to do in this situation is that, instead of, trying to create, original and structural terms for all of these, what I would like to do is I would like to just go down the line and I would like to write down every question that I'm going to need you to ask as we're building the continuity part of all of this.
All right.
Okay, so first question that we're going to need to ask is, what are the player characters doing in this realm? And so, ordinarily we play multiverse in our tabletop games.
Yep.
But the issue is that not everybody plays multiverse, and so sometimes you just have to come up with a fictional reason why individuals would be involved in this specific kingdom doing
that's
these
why
specific
I have
things.
the war stuff and the concept of multiple other kingdoms as well that the players could help make with their own backstories, so they can be more connected.
Mm-hmm. And so, what happens when the who? Well, let me ask this in a slightly more specific way. Who do the PCs meet first? And why would they be involved? And so underneath this, I'm going to create a subcategory. in this question, what we would in this situation, what we would do would ask ourselves, you know, um, how okay, how are the PCs introduced to the um, the complex and interpolitical conflict we want them to be in.
Right?
All right. Okay. And also, what is the first encounter that the PCs have upon arriving in the central part of the kingdom? In a lot of situations, like in books written in the Dungeons and Dragons format, they usually just put up what is called a quest board.
Yeah,
You
what
know.
I plan to have like here is that the central part of the kingdom is actually like holding like their own like sanctuary for things like refugees used from all this, who are just sick of the fighting and want to just get away from all of it.
Okay, so that is
So
something
this
I'm
would
going
also
to
be a
make a
good
note
reason for
of.
the PCs to be here.
So I'm going to make a subcategory note right there. Is that knowing that this is part of the answer to the question? Is that I'll go ahead and write that. The PCs get involved in a conflict with refugees from the from the lengthy battle that has happened so far. And so then obviously the next question is, then what happens?
Yes,
And
then what happened?
so I'm kind of writing this in just a very straightforward way. You're free to change any of these points around any
Yes,
way
of
that you
course.
like. Okay. So effectively, that would really be good for introductory material. Is that when the character heroes are here? Um, the characters are here. They have to deal with this initial conflict. That's enough for the first chapter. So then we're going to go into Roman numeral 4, chapter 2. Okay. How do we introduce the PCs to the other side of the conflict? And then our addendum to that is, how do we meet the other? Well, how do we meet the other side, the people on the other side of the battle?
Well, multiple sides.
Yeah. Uh, on the multiple sides of the battle. Okay. And how are they planning on influencing the PCs to see things their way? Okay.
Right.
Follow that up to um, what choices do the PCs have if they decide to work with the villagers or the village separatists? And how does that rearrange the conflict that will happen in this chapter? Then, of course, we have the conflict in this chapter.
Yep. Conflict.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Roman numeral 5, chapter 3.
Alright.
So, by now the PCs have been mostly introduced but to the conflict between these two sides.
The multiple sides.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Between these multiple sides.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. So in a campaign like this, what is important to try to create is the belief that, the characters have agency and a choice when it comes to what they are capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, once again, is that okay? What might change within the conflict of this chapter? If they remain loyal to one NPC or another. And then after that, most likely that this is where we would have the climactic battle between the main NPCs involved in the conflict.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. All right. Just creating it so that all the spacing is the same width apart. All right.
Yep.
Then chapter 6, Roman numeral 6, which is chapter 4.
Uh-huh.
All right. We get into the meta part of
things like certain mechanics.
Yeah. Well, we get into the meta part of the environment. This is where we would introduce deities, gods, myths, and what's the best way to put this? Omniscient, enigmatic elements of the story.
All right.
I have lost my auto outline, but as
Yeah.
long as this is still readable.
Yeah, we can always fix it up later.
Mm-hmm. All right. So then, so the two part of this is now that the PCs know that there's a mystical element to all these conflicts. And I'm asking the same question again. How does that change the conflict that they're already involved in?
Well, given that like one of the gods, so like quite literally the god of chaos is pretty much messing with Maxi here and taking him over. That would probably like cause like quite a bit of change in quite a lot of things, to not only having to deal with like whatever might be going on, but also making sure that
Mm-hmm.
Solstice doesn't do too much crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. You. And who can they continue to trust? And so I'm going to put in the side note that this will give the PCs a second opportunity to decide which side that they're on. I mean, this will give the PCs another opportunity. So once again, conflict number 3 will be, let me see, how have we been saying this? Okay, conflict number 3 must involve the more mystical side of this battle, in addition to the grassroots one that the player characters have already been playing.
What does grassroots mean?
I mean, like, on the ground.
Oh.
I mean, so most often it's used in politics. When somebody has like a grassroots campaign, that means that they are working within their own politics, they're working within their own political environment, within their own city.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But, also, and when it comes to comic book fiction, people also tend to use the terms street level or cosmic.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So then, chapter 5. So we're gonna need to start wrapping things up here.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's kind of, in some ways, it's a little bit cliche to say this, but,
Yeah.
this is where you turn in.
Cliche.
I mean, this is where you put in, like, kind of, like, the thematic twist in all of this.
Well, I've already mentioned that, like, but also, like, the main, like, twist here is that, Maxie is also in a similar situation that Maxie is, but with Solstice's brother, or Equinox, which will end up going completely haywire in what I would see as the final fight, like an endgame style boss fight.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to use a literary term here. It's called reconciling.
Oh,
Okay, so the PCs must be in a situation where the where all is known by them, yet they still have to deal with the fallout of all the conflict so far. And so, number one in this situation is that we need to have a way for the cosmic entities in this battle to meet up with the known NPCs and create a more threatening situation. This is like when Sephiroth merges with Genova in Final Fantasy VII.
yeah.
Just that
Essentially,
situation.
like what I planned for Magshar is kind of like that, but you know,
Mhm.
like in the style of more something like Shin Godzilla.
Mm-hmm. So then, conflict number 4. Okay. Conflict number 4 is just final battle, followed by, epilogue. And so that's yeah,
Good.
that's a pretty basic outline. And so you can have, you can shuffle this around. You can have additional chapters where like a different one of these elements can happen. But this is basically, we usually call this the writer's bell curve. Is that, you start out with an introduction, a rising action, a climax, a falling action, and then a conclusion. And so we've already said that the climax is actually the climactic battle between the NPCs involved.
Yeah.
Out of which, this whole thing is going to end up being a much bigger conflict than the players or even the NPCs have come to realize.
Yep, but because even King Bazion doesn't realize that what he did was pretty much give Equinox like enough like power and also like utter suffering to allow it to just like manifest as like with complete power or
Mm-hmm.
just like ending up going on a complete rampage in pain.
Mm-hmm.
Shin Godzilla style.
Yep. Okay, so all the information that we already have, we're going to start separating out this outline, and we're going to just plug in everything that you've already written where it already belongs. So,
Uh-huh.
so this is summary. Copy and paste right there. Mm-hmm.
All right.
We don't have our table of contents, so we don't have our how to play instructions yet. Because, we haven't just kind of worked into the more game mechanics when it comes to this. And so once I put everything in the history, if you feel like it needs to go in a different order, then we can go ahead and we can change that.
All right. Sounds good.
So then we have, well, your important characters is what our important NPCs section is going to be composed of. Okay, then.
I'll just already deal with the mythology section.
Mm-hmm. And so then we'll just continue to do that. Plug in the environment, plug in the mythology. Then the God Myth. Well, actually, maybe we don't need like separate God section because that's
Yeah, we
also
don't really
explained
need
in
like
the.
a separation for gods. So like,
Hmm.
I pretty much should, yeah, like here I'm doing like the opposite of what I did in the other one. Like this one has a really few gods, so.
All right. Forms of magic.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we put in that information about
Monsters and
Magitech.
races.
Uh-huh. Uh, man-made magic, Magitech, taming armor. And so as we can start to do this, we find out just like other gaps in what we have written are going to require like other categories, and we can just go ahead and throw that in once that's ready to go. So you have the Star Sparrows in there, but this is also where we're going to need
Yep, I'm also
homunculi.
getting the homunculi.
Uh-huh. And then we're actually going to need to write a new chapter involving the types of automatons.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So that more or less takes care of it, everything that you've already written. I mean, the only thing that you would probably want to look at is, you go into that section that we put underneath the mark and try to see if you can expand on any of the things that you've already written using the additional descriptive material that you've already put down.
All right.
I mean, so if you say you haven't already mentioned that, Maxi is a being made purely out of mana, you would go down into your notes and then you would add that to the paragraph. But you have to do it in a way that the paragraph still makes sense. So I'm leaving that up to you. That's much more necessary to have the author's touch.
Yep, I'll make sure to work on that.
Mm-hmm. And so then, just from this point forward is that we have chapters 1 through 5. We have chapters 1 through 5. This just turned out to be 5
also,
chapters.
we should probably delete all this stuff we already copy and pasted over above us.
Yeah. Once it is in the space, then you don't need to have it anymore. But do be careful about that. That you don't delete the notes you still need.
Right? That we have like so far.
Yeah. So just everything down to the light mark. That should be good.
All right. Perfect.
All right. And so now that's all in place. Is now what we're going to when you continue to write on this document, you need to start working on the player character native. Is that chapter 1? Put in the player characters, and in order just the easiest way to do this is imagine yourself as a player character. You don't have the ability to specify who you are because you're going to just go through the standard process of creating your character in any way that the dungeon master allows you to. But then afterwards, you have to think about the agency section of it. The way that the classic PC adventure game Quest for Glory 1, So You Want to Be a Hero, opens is that it opens with the first thing you do is that you see your generic looking hero character walk into the center of the town square. The first thing that you see is a tavern on the left. You see a sheriff's office in the second, with a sheriff who has a deputy that is a giant ogre, and a path leading just northwest to the main part of the town. And so this is the kind of perspective that you have to take. It's kind of like a first-person perspective. Is that, in these situations, you introduce the environment, you create what is known as the player description. Is that the wise NPC knows that there are just areas and little blue boxes that are narration that you need to read directly to your players. And so that's basically what you're creating in these situations. And so then we're just going to go down the line. We're going to answer these questions. What are they doing here? Who do they meet first? Why do they need to be involved in this conflict? According to who? Depending on which NPC you want to introduce in the first chapter versus the one that you want to introduce in the second chapter.
All right.
And so, we've been working on this. I've left QB to work on this. Let me be more that specific. I've left QB to work on this for the better part of 3 weeks while I was negotiating the work that I have been doing at my job over the past couple of days. And this is the first time we've been able to get together and actually, provide an organizational structure for which we're going to end up completing the entirety of the book. So I'm glad that we were able to do this, first of all. But, now I would say that you do have a good idea about, which directions that the narrative is going to need to take.
Yep.
All right. So this was very productive. This is probably one of the more productive episodes of writing the RPG that we've had.
Yeah.
And it's really that, I'm not working partially with my own writing, and I'm working partially with QB's writing.
My writing.
We're working entirely with QB's writing in this situation. Okay, so this is probably going to be a good time for us to sign off. So thank you, everybody, once again for tuning in to another episode of Brainy the RPG Cat. I am not entirely sure when I'm going to be back, but I am getting mornings open on more days of the week, so it's very likely the next stream I'm going to do is a morning stream. If you see me during the week, it's more than likely I'm going to be doing a continuation of some of the RPGs that I've started playing, including Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, Persona 2, or Persona 3 Remake, something like that.
Probably.
And, just any of the back catalog of video games that I've been working on. And then we'll come back to this. It's just more likely we'll do another section of the Halvacavalon Kingdom this next Sunday at the same time, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, right here on Brain the RPG Cat. Okay, so that's all taken care of. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a raid now for those of you who are watching on Twitch. Let's see, who would we like to pay a visit to? We have Primbo Kills in the middle of a game of Balatro. We have Akami with another Crab's Treasure. Let's see. Okay, I think we're going to go with Akami. I mean, they're in the middle of playing another Crab's Treasure, which is this excellent, somewhat cartoony, family-friendly, Souls-like, where you play as a hermit crab who is using various pieces of garbage as his armored shell. It's a pretty cool game. And I did start a playthrough of that, but, where we'll go over, we'll see Akami play that. Maybe I will come up with a time in which I will be able to continue my own playthrough. Alrighty, folks. So thank you, everybody, once again for tuning in. Remember that BRANY means smart. Nothing's too hard if you lose your head. Always be the change that you want to see in the world. Have a good night, everybody, and thank you very much for watching.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.